Hi. So as Nadine said, I'm Jem. I'm the co-founder of Collie Rice. I think before I start, maybe just I could give you a bit of background about myself. I started in the corporate world, which I'm sure a lot of you have or are thinking of making that big jump. I used to work with Unilever in the Philippines, where I'm from. And I ended up getting expatriated to South Africa and then getting sent to the head office here in London. And that's how I ended up here and meeting my husband here. So I was working with Unilever. I was working on one of their biggest brands at the time, which was a laundry brand. So I was excited about the whole marketing and branding bit, but I wasn't very excited about the product. So I think after 8 years of working with the company, I realized I wanted to go off and set up my own business. And I knew that the one thing I really loved was food. I liked eating it. I've never worked on any businesses that had to do with it, but I thought, being very practical and pragmatic, to resign at the height of the recession in 2008 and try my luck at setting up food businesses. From 2008 to 2012, when I started Collie Rice, I tried my hand at two food businesses that had limited success, and that's kind of where my story starts. Here we go. Let's see if this clicker works. Yeah. Right. So we came across Collie Rice, or the whole idea, or the whole trend of cauliflower rice, way back in 2012. We saw the whole idea of it circling around the internet, so we thought we'd try and make it at home for dinner, and we were just floored by the product. The whole thing that got us really excited about it was the fact that with the right meal, it looked and tasted like rice, but it had 75% fewer calories. It was one of your 5 a day, and it had an amazing glycemic index of 2, which means that if you're diabetic and you're meant to avoid rice altogether, it just gives you this whole opportunity to enjoy meals that you were meant to avoid previously. And then I remember Jamie and I were talking about it at the dinner table, saying, it's such a great product, but the things that worked against it were the fact that it was a faff to make. You had to have a cheese grater or a food blender, and you'd have cauliflower bits flying all over your kitchen. It took 20 minutes to do on top of the rest of the cooking that you had to do for dinner, and we have a very, very energetic 6-year-old, so that made it even more difficult. So we thought, it wasn't like an immediate light bulb moment, but it did dawn upon us after a while, saying, there has to be an easier way of doing this. Surely there's someone who's already come up with a ready-made version of the product. And the other thing that worked against the whole fresh cauliflower rice is it would go off after 2 days. So you'd have the pressure of taking a whole head of cauliflower, blitzing it, and having to eat it in 2 days before you have to chuck the lot. So we thought this would be a brilliant opportunity. There was a huge gap for a convenient version of the product, a ready-made version of the product that would have a long life aspect to it as well. So we thought, why don't we give it a try? This was way back in 2012, and we couldn't believe why no one was doing it. And then soon we found out why. It was so difficult to make. It took us 3 years to develop the technology around trying to find a way to preserve Collie Rice and other vegetables without the need of any preservatives. But we finally, after 3 years, came around to developing what we have now, to the point that it was so unique that we were able to patent the technology, which means that you have a 20-year protection over your idea. So we launched a year and a half ago. So we're on our 2nd year of trading, and we're hoping to end this year with 2.5 million turnover. We're in 3,000 supermarkets. We're the fastest growing brand in rice, and we're also, by September of this year, going to be launching in 3 major supermarkets in the States. Yeah, thank you. But it sounds so easy, but it hasn't been easy. So like I said, I had attempted to try, and I wanted to get into food. Like, I like any food in general, but health food I was genuinely excited about. I thought there was a real need to, come up with a brand that made people really excited about eating healthily, and that's the whole idea behind the previous innovations we did. I think the big advice that I have for everyone here who's setting up your food business, one of the big learnings I've had through the 4 years before actually coming around to doing Collie Rice is, cool packaging and a cool brand is not enough. you genuinely need to find a way to make your product relevant in the market. It needs to stand out. It needs to fill a real gap that none of your other competitors are able to do, and that was the whole inspiration behind cauli rice. Right, so that brings us to the next slide, and this is why there's so much going on with the business now. But when we got this invitation to speak here at the British Library, we thought, we should do this because I owe so much to the British Library. All this information here I managed to get from the Business Center. And the thing that is coming from when I used to work with Unilever, I knew how expensive it was to pay for research. So when I first came here, I couldn't believe. So for the people in the audience who don't know, you can sign up for free. You can become a member of the British Library, and you will have access to the most up-to-date consumer research for any category, competitor data, category data for the product that you're looking to launch in. And it really, really could help you develop a really strong, try and find out what it is that your product, your unique selling proposition is. So for us, the things that we found so when I started pitching this so I mentioned we're in 3,000 supermarkets, and we managed to get that all those listings in the span of 12 months. It isn't because we were lucky. I truly believe it's because of the strength of a consumer insight behind the product. So you have to be able to ask yourself several things. So why is your product relevant? So for us, for cauli rice, we found out that over 60% of adults in the UK were overweight or obese, and by 2050, I think they're expecting that 60% are just going to be obese. So it's quite a scary number. And then if you look at UK adults, over 65% of them have gone on a diet in the past 12 months. And if you look at the kind of diets that people do, more than half of this have to do with cutting out the carbs in your meal. So the traditional carbs like rice, pasta, and potatoes. The second question you should ask is, does your product answer a gap in the market? So I took those big insights I got from the business center here in the library, and I had a look at what was in the category, and I saw that there was only one low-carb, low-calorie alternative to rice and grains on shelf, and it was made of konjac flour, which is like a paste that you sort of mold into whatever shape you want. So I thought, this is great because with the product idea that we had, it was made from something familiar. It's cauliflower, it's a vegetable. So we thought that, we could really come in there and make a really, really big, significant difference on the shelf. And the third thing is what supermarket, it's one thing telling supermarket buyers how great your product is and how important you think it is. But one of the big things that they want you to answer is how they can make money from your brand. And for us, going back to the data we found here in the British Library, we found that the rice category, which we are going to launch in, was not growing. It's a huge, huge category that had 1% growth a year, and it's usually mainly due to inflation. So we thought these were really big pieces of facts that we were able to present to supermarket buyers who couldn't argue against it because it's research, it's quantitative research, and that's the best way to kind of cue up your brand to people, because buyers usually have so many categories that they're managing, and they're not experts at salad dressings or rice, or so for you to come in and tell them all of this and come in with these authoritative facts, it could really, really help cue you up for a successful pitch and a successful listing. So using all of that, I think the big thing that kind of got us into the supermarkets that we're in now is, we saw how big the low-carb market was becoming because of everyone who was going on a diet, and most of them are going on low-carb diets. We saw that there was a flood of low-carb products, so protein bars, protein shakes, all sorts of diets. But all of these are mostly snacks, and where these products and diets failed was they were not able to successfully take the place that the traditional starches like rice, pasta, and potatoes would take on your plate. So this was the gap that we were trying to fill, and this is kind of the thing that got us to, most of the listings that we had in supermarkets. So how did it do for us? So we launched, we were talking earlier, if we were planning to launch this in 2012 and no one knew about cauliflower rice then. So I think it's also a matter of timing, because I think if we launched our product then people would have found it really weird. But somehow, because it took us 3 years to develop the technology, by the end of those 3 years, the cauliflower trend was getting more and more popular with people. So I think eventually we did find that we launched at the right time. And the nice thing when we started was we had hardly any budget we did several rounds of crowdfunding to build a factory to use as working capital for all these supermarkets. So we had hardly any funding to do any kind of marketing. But the great thing is because of how innovative the product was, what we were finding in social media where people were just tweeting, posting on Instagram, posting recipes that they've done with the product, posting what kind of difference it's made to their lives, which makes us feel, really like the product we've come up with is making a difference, which is great. And, just show it really helped, how do you call this, with word of mouth. So building our awareness through word of mouth. Since that time, we've been lucky enough to do our latest round of crowdfunding, our fourth round of crowdfunding, which helped us to really build fund our marketing campaign. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to end my presentation with a TV ad, one of the 3 TV ads that we've developed. That's it. Cue TV ad. Oh, there we go.
We love to keep busy. There's never really enough hours in the day for us.
A huge thing for us is convenience, which is why we use cauli rice so much.
We use this to add more veg really to our diet. Just rip off the top. Thank you.
And if you are looking to cut calories, cauli rice is up to 75% less calories than rice or pasta, so it's a great alternative.
The dish we created for you today is just the original cauli rice topped with a lean beef chilli.
Simple and tasty.
Delicious.
Eat well.
Save calories.
That's it. And that TV ads helped increase our sales by 300%.